I was standing in the middle of that noisy backyard, kids screaming the grill, smoking, my father laughing so hard he had to wipe his eyes when my phone buzzed and my whole life split open. I remember the moment like it's carved into the inside of my skull. I was helping my 8-year-old son Evan untie a knotted ribbon on one of my dad's birthday presents, thinking about whether the burgers were burning when my phone vibrated in my pocket. I almost ignored it. It was loud, people everywhere, and I figured it was just a reminder from work. But something, maybe instinct, maybe God, made me pull it out. It was my husband, Michael. And from the first second, I knew something was wrong. There wasn't any hello, no warm little joke, none of the softness he always had when he called me from work. Just his voice, tight and rushing. "Emily, where are you?" "At Dad's birthday dinner," I said. "You know that. Why, what's wrong?" There was a beat of silence, a strange shaky breath. "Then take Evan and leave. Right now, do you hear me? Just go." And before I could even form the words, before I could demand to know what had happened, he hung up. Just like that. A single call, a single command, and then nothing but the hum of laughter and a country song coming from the old Bluetooth speaker near the grill. I stood there frozen, my phone still pressed to my ear, like maybe he'd still be there if I didn't move. You don't get calls like that. Not from the man you share a mortgage with, not from the father of your child, not from a guy who usually reminds you to drink more water and tells you goofy stories about coworkers who microwave fish in the office. My husband was steady, calm. He'd worked for a government contractor for years, mostly data analysis, or so he told me. Nothing dramatic, nothing that explained the fear in his voice. Then Evan tugged on my sleeve. "Mom, can I open the next one?" That shook me loose. "Just a minute," I said, trying not to let him hear the quiver I felt crawling up my throat. I scanned the yard. Everyone looked normal, the way families do at these things. My dad's VFW buddies sitting in their lawn chairs, trading the same stories they'd told for 20 years. My sister carrying out a tray of potato salad. My brother tossing a football to his teenage son across the lawn. Nothing looked wrong, nothing felt wrong. Except everything was. I forced a smile and told my dad I had to step away for a minute. I didn't want to alarm him, not yet. Evan followed me without complaint, probably thinking we were running an errand or grabbing something from the car. The late afternoon sun was warm on my back as we walked down the driveway. I remember noticing that stupid detail, the warmth, the dust motes floating lazily as if nothing in the world was out of place. When I opened the driver's side door, that illusion snapped in half. There was a manila envelope sitting on my seat. My name, Emily Carter, written neatly across the front in Michael's handwriting. I knew instantly it hadn't been there before. I had driven straight from work to my dad's house, Evan chattering in the back seat about his field trip, and the seat had been empty. Someone had put it there, recently, quietly, right under my nose. My heart started pounding so hard I could barely breathe. "Mom," Evan asked, his small voice echoing in the sudden silence of the carport. "Why are you scared?" I swallowed and knelt beside him. "I'm not scared, sweetheart. We just have to go somewhere, okay, real quick." "But Grandpa's cake." "I know, I promise we'll come back." I didn't know if that was true. I didn't know anything at that point. But I buckled him in, shut his door, and climbed into the driver's seat. For a minute, I just stared at the envelope. The air in the car felt wrong, too, still too heavy. I could hear my pulse thudding in my ears. I kept thinking about Michael's voice, that urgent edge like he was talking while running from something or someone. I opened the envelope. Inside were 3 things that snapped the world I knew clean in half. A USB drive, small, black, ordinary looking, the kind you'd toss in a drawer. A stack of printed photos Evan taken from a distance, getting off the school bus, walking to our door, sitting on a park bench. A note written in Michael's familiar handwriting. Just one sentence. "Don't trust anyone in Perrysburg. Find Agent Ramirez. Do not go home." My breath caught. I felt my whole body go cold, like someone had opened a freezer door behind me. Evan. They had been watching Evan. I looked in the rearview mirror and saw him swinging his feet, humming the SpongeBob theme under his breath, completely unaware that his picture was sitting on the seat beside me like a threat. That was the moment everything inside me hardened. A mother feels fear, yes, but she also feels something sharper, something that could cut through steel. I didn't know who Agent Ramirez was. I didn't know why Michael had given me that USB drive or what danger he'd gotten himself tangled in. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. If someone was watching my son, they had already crossed a line they shouldn't have crossed. I started the engine. I didn't even say goodbye to my family. Didn't stop to explain. Didn't give myself time to think. Every second felt like it was dripping with danger. My hands were shaking as I backed out of the driveway. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the street. I kept checking the mirror, half expecting to see a car following us. "Where are we going?" Evan asked. I forced my voice steady. "We're going to find someone who can help Daddy." "I thought Daddy was at work." "So did I whispered. As I turned onto the main road, clutching the wheel so tightly my fingers hurt, I realized this was the moment where my life split into before and after. And the after was just beginning. I didn't have a plan when I pulled away from my dad's house. I just drove. Perrysburg has that neat, small-town look, brick storefronts, hanging flower baskets, kids on bikes cutting across side streets without looking. I'd driven these roads 1,000 times. Grocery runs, school pickups, late-night pharmacy trips when Evan had a fever. It was all so familiar that my brain kept trying to tell me nothing was wrong. But that envelope on the seat next to me said otherwise. The photos stared up at me as the car rolled through town. Evan with his backpack a little too big for his shoulders. Evan on the swings at Woodlands Park. Evan walking up our front steps, head down, kicking a stray rock. Someone had stood far away and taken those. More than once, over days, maybe weeks. "Mom, are we going home?" Evan asked from the back seat. His voice was light, distracted, like this was just another errand. I swallowed. "No, buddy, we're going somewhere else first." "Are we getting ice cream?" I almost laughed. It came out as a tiny broken sound. "Maybe later." I hit the stoplight downtown and sat there staring at the red glow like it could tell me what to do. Home was to the right. The police station was straight ahead. The highway was left. Every instinct I had as a person who grew up in this country said, "Go to the police." That's what you're taught from kindergarten on. You go to the people with badges and radios and gun belts. But Michael's handwriting was burned into my eyes. Don't trust anyone in Perrysburg. Anyone. That included the guys who waved at us in the Memorial Day parade. The ones who came into the ER with sprained ankles and let me joke with them while I rapped. Mom Evan kicked the back of my seat lightly. "Lights green." I hadn't even noticed. The car behind me honked just a quick tap. I jerked and hit the gas, rolling forward on autopilot. My hands turned the wheel straight toward the small brick building that housed the Perrysburg Police Division before I even fully decided. I just wanted to see it, to see if my gut would tell me anything. The closer I got, the tighter my chest felt. The building sat on a neat little lot with a flagpole and manicured bushes, the kind of place people point to and say, "See Safe Town." There were only a few cars in the lot, 2 cruisers and a couple sedans. I pulled in and swung around, planning to park facing the street, a habit my dad drilled into us. "Always leave yourself an out," he used to say. That's when I saw them. 2 men in dark suits standing just inside the glass doors talking to the desk officer. They didn't look like local detectives. No worn leather jackets, no polos with embroidered logos. Their suits actually fit. Short haircuts. One held a slim black folder. I might have brushed them off as lawyers or state investigators, except for the way one of them turned his head, scanned the lot, and locked eyes with me through the windshield. It was like being spotted by a predator. There was nothing overtly threatening in his expression, just recognition. Like he had been waiting for something, and that something had just arrived. He said something to the other man and started toward the door. My body reacted before my brain did. I spun the wheel, heart hammering, and pulled right back out of the lot a little too fast. Gravel popped under the tires. Mom Evan's voice pitched up. "Why are we leaving?" They're busy," I said, my mouth dry. "We'll come back." I checked the rear view. The man in the suit had stepped outside, hand up, to shade his eyes, watching us go. He didn't run after us, didn't wave or shout, but the way he watched made my skin crawl. I turned left at the next light, then right, weaving through side streets, until I hit a strip mall with a Dollar Tree, a nail salon, and a pizza place that always smelled like burnt cheese. I pulled into an empty spot far from the doors and finally let myself breathe. Evan unbuckled halfway and leaned between the seats. "Are we in trouble?" "No," I said quickly, then realized how unconvincing I sounded. I turned to look at him. His brown eyes, Michael's eyes, were wide. "We're not in trouble. We're just being careful." He studied me the way kids do when they're deciding whether to believe you. Then he said, Can I have my tablet? Yeah, I said, yeah, go ahead. While he rummaged in his backpack, I picked up the note again. My hands were still shaking, but less now, the initial shock starting to solidify into something that felt a lot like anger. Who the hell was Agent Ramirez? I flipped the page over, hoping for a miracle, and found one. On the back in the corner, Michael had written a number. No name, just 10 digits and a little star beside them. Michael was careful. He was the kind of man who checked the locks twice before bed, who kept a fire extinguisher under the sink and extra water in the basement just in case. If he'd given me a number, it meant something. I pulled out my phone and started to dial, my thumb hovering over the green button. Then I stopped. If someone had been watching us, if they'd been close enough to put this envelope in my car, they might have had access to Michael's accounts, his call logs, his contacts. For all I knew, this number could be compromised too. But what was my alternative? Go it alone? Drive into the next town and walk into another police station cold? On impulse, I checked my recent calls. Michael's name sat at the top, mocking me. I tapped it and hit speaker. It rang once, twice, 3 times. Then his voicemail came on, his easygoing voice recorded months ago. Hey, it's Michael. If this is a telemarketer, hang up. If it's my wife, I love you. If it's anyone else, leave a message. I nearly lost it right then. Michael, I said, my voice breaking. I got your note. I'm with Evan. We're okay. I saw 2 men at the station. I didn't go in. I don't know what's happening. Call me back. Please, just call me back. I hung up before I started sobbing. Evan glanced up from his game at the sound of my voice and then quietly put his headphones on. Smart kid. Too smart. I wiped my face with the heel of my hand and stared at the number again. 10 digits, 1 star. All right, I muttered, mostly to myself. We do it your way, Mike. I dialed and hit call. It rang longer this time, 4, 5, 6 times. I was about to hang up when a woman's voice came on. Calm, crisp. This is Olivia. I swallowed. I'm looking for Agent Ramirez. Silence for half a beat. Then who is this? My name is Emily Carter. My husband is Michael Carter. He told me to find you. He left me your number. Another pause. I could hear something in the background, traffic maybe, or an air conditioner. Where are you right now, Mrs. Carter? The woman asked. Her tone had shifted sharper. And is your son with you? I glanced at Evan, absorbed in his game. Yes, I said. We're in a parking lot off Route 20, near the Dollar Tree, in Perrysburg. Do not go home, she said immediately. Do not go back to your father's. Do not speak to local law enforcement. Stay in your car, keep the engine on. I'm about 40 minutes out. 40 minutes, I looked around the lot, suddenly seeing threats in every parked car. How do I know you're really who you say you are? There was the faintest hint of a sigh, like she understood and didn't hold it against me. Ask your husband about Albuquerque, she said. Ask him why he stopped drinking. He'll tell you about a hotel room and a man named Diaz. That should be enough. My heart tripped. Michael had told me that story once late at night when he finally admitted why he'd gotten sober in his 20s. He'd never told anyone else. Not his parents, not his AA sponsor, just me. Okay, I whispered, okay. I'm hanging up now, she said. If anyone approaches your vehicle, you call this number back and stay on the line. Do not roll down your window. Do you understand? Yes. Good, I'll find you. The line clicked dead. I sat there for a moment, phone still in my hand, the hum of the car's AC buzzing in my ears. My life had started that day in a backyard with paper plates and laughter. Now I was sitting in a strip mall parking lot, waiting for a stranger named Olivia to show up and tell me what was left of my world. Mom, Evan said quietly, are we having an adventure? I turned to look at him. He was trying to be brave. I could see it in the way his mouth was pressed into a line like he'd seen in superhero movies. Yeah, buddy, I said softly. We are, and we're going to be okay, I promise. I didn't know if that was true. But I knew one thing, whatever storm Michael had tried to shield us from had officially arrived. And now, whether I liked it or not, I was in it. I kept the engine running like she told me. The hum of it felt like the only thing anchoring me to, the moment, the only sound that didn't feel suspicious or dangerous. The sky was shifting toward dusk now, the kind of soft Ohio evening where the air smells like cut grass and warm pavement. Normal, familiar, and yet my stomach was twisted so tight I could barely sit still. Every time a car pulled into the strip mall, my breath caught. A blue minivan, a silver sedan, a rusty pickup with a loose muffler rattling like a toolbox. All innocent, all ordinary, and every one of them made me clench the wheel like it was the only rope keeping me from falling off a cliff. Evan was still in the back seat playing on his tablet, the bright animations reflecting off his glasses. His little sneakers tapped softly against the seat, and he hummed a tune under his breath. It was such a regular moment, so painfully normal, that I felt tears climb up my throat again. I swallowed them down. I couldn't afford to break. Not here. Not in front of him. "Mom," he said quietly, looking up. "Are we really okay?" I nodded, forcing a steady voice. "We're okay. We're just waiting for someone who's going to help us." He studied me for another second, then put his headphones back on. Another car pulled into the lot, a black SUV this time. High-end, clean, tinted windows. My pulse spiked. The SUV slowed as it rolled past us. Too slow. I reached for my phone, ready to call that number again, but the SUV kept going and parked way down by the nail salon. Some middle-aged couple got out laughing about something, completely oblivious to the fact that my entire life felt like it was dangling by a thread. 40 minutes. She'd said 40 minutes. At minute 33, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My hand shook as I answered. "Hello." "It's me," the woman said. Her voice was calm, steady in a way that made me sit up straighter. "I'm here. Look to your right by the pizza place." I turned my head slowly. A dark gray Honda CR-V sat in a spot 2 rows over. Not a government-looking car, not intimidating, almost disappointingly normal. A woman stepped out, a little over 40, Hispanic, dressed in jeans and a dark blue windbreaker. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and she carried no visible weapon, just a messenger bag slung across her chest. "Is that you?" I asked. "Yes, Agent Olivia Ramirez. I'm walking to you now. Stay in the car." She held her phone to her ear as she crossed the lot. Her walk wasn't hurried, but there was purpose in every step, like she knew exactly who she was and what she was carrying. When she was halfway to us, she lowered the phone and tucked it away. I unlocked the door when she reached the driver's side window. She didn't try to open it. She just crouched so we were eye level. "Mrs. Carter," she said, voice surprisingly gentle. "Emily, I need you to know you did the right thing." I could feel tears stinging again, but I blinked hard. "My husband, Michael, he told me to find you." He sounded terrified. Her expression softened, just barely. "I know, and we're going to figure this out." With a glance around the lot, she stood and walked around to the passenger side. I unlocked the door and she slid in, closing it smoothly behind her. She smelled faintly of citrus hand sanitizer and wind, like she'd driven with the windows down. Evan peeked around the seat. "Who are you?" "My name's Olivia," she said kindly. "I'm a friend of your dad's." Something in her tone must have comforted him, because he nodded and went back to his game. I turned toward her. "Please, tell me what's happening." "Michael left those photos, the USB. That note." She nodded and set her bag in her lap. "Your husband works for the CIA. I'm assuming that's not a surprise to you." "Yes, it is," I whispered. "He told me he was a contractor, data stuff, nothing dangerous." "That's how it's supposed to work," she said. "Families aren't supposed to get pulled in. You're supposed to be safe, separate." "What changed?" She hesitated, then opened her bag and pulled out a slim black tablet. Michael was working on a counterintelligence case. Internal corruption. A small ring selling classified intel to a private security firm in Cleveland. People you wouldn't expect. People with money connections. People who know how to hide their tracks. I felt a sick chill roll through me, and Michael found proof. "Yes." Ramirez tapped the bag. "Enough proof to bury them. Enough that someone on the inside figured out what he was doing." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "They didn't go after him first. They went after you." The breath went out of my lungs. Why were nobody? "That's exactly why," she said softly. "Family is leverage, and leverage is everything to corrupt people." I stared at her. "Is Michael alive?" Her eyes flickered just for half a second, but I saw it. The truth she wasn't ready to say. "We're still trying to locate him," she said, which wasn't a yes, and definitely wasn't a no. My hands tightened on the wheel. "Those men at the police station, were they looking for me?" "They weren't officers," she said. "They were with the private group I mentioned. They have people everywhere, especially in small towns where nobody asks questions." I felt my stomach drop. So Michael was right. I can't trust anyone local. You can trust me, she said simply. I didn't know if that was true, but I needed it to be. Ramirez pulled out a folded map and spread it on her lap. Listen carefully, Emily. We're leaving Perrysburg. Right now. You and Evan will come with me to a safe location about an hour northwest. A farmhouse. It's quiet. Secluded. A safe house, I asked. A place no one will think to look. She looked me in the eye. We need to talk through that USB drive. Everything Michael collected. And we need to figure out how compromised your town is. I shook my head, trying to steady my voice. What if they're following us? What if someone is already watching? Ramirez glanced out the window again, assessing the lot. If anyone was watching, they would have approached by now. They don't know where you are. You did everything right. I exhaled shakily. Emily, she said, lowering her voice. Your husband trusted you with evidence people have killed to protect. That means you and Evan are in danger until we get ahead of this. Evan looked up again, reading my face better than any adult ever could. Mom, are we going somewhere now? Yes, I said, brushing a hand over his hair. We're going with Olivia. He nodded, trusting me completely. That trust felt like both a blessing and a knife. Ramirez buckled her seatbelt. Start driving. I'll tell you where to go. I shifted the car into gear, heart thudding as I pulled out of the lot. As we merged onto the highway, leaving Perrysburg behind us, it hit me with full force. Michael had known this would happen. He'd prepared for it. And now I was following a stranger through the growing dark, praying she was exactly who she claimed to be, and that I wasn't already too late. The drive out of Perrysburg felt longer than any road I'd ever taken, even though Agent Ramirez guided me through each turn like she'd memorized the whole route before we'd even met. The sun had dipped fully now, leaving just a faint pink smear along the horizon. Ohio evenings get quiet in a way that settles into your bones fields, stretching forever barns like old giants hunched over the land, the occasional farmhouse porch light flickering on. Evan fell asleep about 10 minutes into the ride, his head tilted against the window tablet slipping from his hands. Seeing him like that, so small, so unaware, made the weight in my chest almost unbearable. He looked peaceful, safe, and I had no idea if I could keep it that way. Ramirez kept her eyes on the road ahead, chin slightly lifted, posture rigid but controlled. She had that presence like someone who'd had to be alert for far too long. Where exactly are we going? I finally asked. A place we use for emergency relocation, she said. Not an official safe house. Official ones get compromised sometimes. This is private, quiet, off the books. Off the books sounds worse. It's better, she said plainly. Trust me. The fewer people who know about it, the safer you and Evan will be. I listened to the tires hum over the asphalt. Do you know who took those pictures of my son? I have a good idea, she said. Who Chronifurendum? She hesitated for the first time since I met her. It wasn't the hesitation of someone lying. It was the hesitation of someone preparing to tell a truth that would change everything. Your husband's investigation involved people inside the intelligence structure, she said slowly. But the money trail didn't stop there. It branched. Branched where? To Perrysburg, she said bluntly. To someone tied directly to your community. I gripped the wheel. Hoon? She reached down into her messenger bag, pulled out her tablet, and swiped through a set of files. The light cast a cold glow across her face. She turned it toward me. A photo appeared. A man in uniform. Deputy Mark Ellison. My mouth went dry. I stared at the picture, unable to speak. Ellison wasn't some stranger. He'd lived in Perrysburg his whole life. He'd coached Evan's t-ball for a season. He'd helped my dad after he slipped on ice 2 winters ago. He'd been in my house, standing in my doorway chatting, complimenting the cinnamon candles I burned in the fall. Ellison, my voice cracked. He's a cop. He's always been trustworthy, Ramirez finished gently. That's how they operate. The first rule of infiltration: blend in where no one looks closely. I felt dizzy. So what works for that private security group? The ones buying classified intelligence. He facilitates things. He shields the right people, buries the wrong reports, hands off information. Locals like him are valuable. They make communities feel safe while they're quietly doing the opposite. My hands tightened around the wheel. Did he put that envelope in my car? I don't know, she admitted, but I believe he had a hand in surveilling your family. The idea of Ellison, friendly, smiling Ellison, watching my son walk home from school made something hot and vicious bloom in my chest. Fear and fury woven together. How long, I whispered. How long were they watching us? Likely weeks, she said. Once Michael refused the bribe, they needed leverage. They chose Evan. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. Michael never told me any of this. He was trying to keep you safe, she said softly. He trusted that keeping you uninvolved would keep you out of harm's way. Guess that didn't work, I muttered bitterly. Ramirez didn't argue. We drove for another 20 minutes in silence until she told me to take a left down a gravel road. The tires crunched loudly, sending up dust clouds behind us. At the end of the road sat a farmhouse. White paint-peeling porch slanted, a wind chime tinkling faintly in the night breeze. One of those old Midwestern places that looked abandoned until you noticed the single light left on in the kitchen window. Here, Ramirez said, pull around back. I eased the car behind the house where a sagging barn hid us from the road. Ramirez got out first, scanning the area with a flashlight. She moved with trained precision, quick and quiet. Once she nodded, I unbuckled Evan and lifted him into my arms. He clung to me sleepily as I followed her up the wooden porch steps. Inside, the house smelled like dust, dry wood, and old quilts. It reminded me of the places my grandparents lived in, the kind of house where you'd find canning jars in the basement and a metal tin of sewing supplies on the fridge. Ramirez set her bag on the table and motioned for me to sit. I eased Evan onto an old couch, covering him with a crocheted blanket someone must have forgotten here years ago. Emily, Ramirez said, sitting across from me, we need to look at what's on that USB. I nodded, pulling it out of my pocket. My hands felt numb. She plugged it into her tablet and opened the first folder. Dozens of documents appeared: bank transfers, encrypted messages, surveillance reports, names, dates, places. Then she opened a video file. Michael's face filled the screen. He looked tired, stressed in a way I'd never seen. He was in a room with blank walls, maybe a motel, maybe an empty office. He spoke quietly, urgently. If you're seeing this, he said, it means I didn't stop them, or they got to me first. Emily, if you're watching, get Evan and run. Trust Ramirez, no one else. I covered my mouth. He continued, voice trembling. The last name on the list, the one that surprised me, was Ellison. Don't confront him. Don't go near home. Please. If anything happens to me, protect Evan. He's the only thing that matters. The video ended. My eyes burned. Ramirez waited until I could pull in a breath without breaking. Then she said quietly, there's more, and some of it is worse. I shook my head hard. I don't need worse. I need Michael. I need answers. You're about to get them, she said. But you need to understand the corruption isn't some distant problem. It's rooted right in your town, driven by people who know your habits, your schedule, the places your son plays after school. Why, I whispered. Why us? Why our town? Because small towns are the easiest places to hide big crimes, she said. Everyone's friendly. Everyone trusts each other. And no one notices when one deputy has too much access and too few questions asked. My stomach twisted, so the threat was never far away. It was right next door. She flipped to another folder, emails between Ellison and an unknown contact. Payments, instructions, surveillance notes, including child exits bus at 3:18 p.m. Mother picks up at 3:22, route consistent. My blood ran cold. Ramirez turned off the tablet. This doesn't end with running Emily. Eventually we have to bring this into the open. What does that mean? It means we expose him, she said, publicly, where he can't hide, where the community can see him for who he is. I leaned back, heart pounding. For the first time since Michael's call, I felt something stronger than fear. A spark, small but fierce. This isn't just about survival anymore, Ramirez said. It's about justice. I looked at my sleeping son, his tiny hand curled around the edge of the blanket. No, I said quietly, it's about revenge. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the old farmhouse couch with Evan curled against me, his breath soft and warm on my arm, while my mind spun like a storm siren that wouldn't shut off. Every creak of the house, every groan of the old beams, every shift of the wind outside sounded like footsteps or worse. Agent Ramirez sat at the kitchen table until nearly dawn, reviewing documents on her tablet, scribbling notes, making quiet phone calls that she ended the second she heard the slightest unfamiliar noise. She looked like someone who'd learned long ago that rest was a luxury, not a guarantee. Around 6, the old refrigerator kicked on with a clatter that jolted me awake. I didn't even remember falling asleep. Ramirez stood near the window, coffee mug in hand, staring outside like she expected someone to come walking up the gravel lane any second. She didn't turn when she said, "There's news." My stomach dropped. About Michael. She faced me. Her expression was controlled, too controlled. "Sit down." I shifted carefully so I wouldn't wake Evan and stepped into the kitchen, heart thudding in a slow, sick rhythm. "What happened?" I asked. She set the mug down. "State police found a burned vehicle just off Route 6. The fire department got a call from a passerby around midnight. Something cold slid through me, a car fire that doesn't mean." The car matched the description of the sedan Michael was driving during his reassignment, she said gently. The one issued under his cover identity. My breath hitched. Was anyone inside? She looked down, exhaled slowly, then met my eyes. There was a body. My knees nearly gave. I gripped the back of the chair. "No," I whispered. "No, that doesn't mean it was him. They make mistakes. They misidentify bodies all the time. My uncle's friend back in Lima, people thought." "Emily," she said softly, "listen to me." I shook my head, hard. Please, don't tell me he's gone unless you're absolutely sure." "We're not absolutely sure," she said, "but the circumstances, the timing, the method." She paused, voice lowering. "People don't burn cars on country roads unless they're trying to destroy evidence or hide a body." A slow, crushing grief pressed down on me, heavy as a truck. My ears buzzed, my hands went numb. Michael, my Michael, the man who made pancakes in stupid shapes on Sundays, the man who could fix anything with duct tape, the man who kissed Evan's forehead every night even when he thought Evan was already asleep. "Gone," Emily Ramirez said again, stepping closer. "I'm so sorry." I pressed my fist to my mouth to keep from screaming. It didn't help. A sound tore out of me anyway, raw, broken, unrecognizable as human. My vision blurred. My body shook. I don't know how long I cried. Minutes, hours. Time bent around that grief like heat bending metal. When the tears finally slowed, I wiped my face with my sleeve, shaky and exhausted. Ramirez handed me a glass of water and a napkin, but didn't crowd me. She didn't try to hug me or say empty things. And somehow that made her easier to trust. When I could speak again, my voice came out low and rough. "They killed him. We can't confirm that yet. They killed him," I repeated, stronger this time. "Because he stood up to them. Because he wouldn't take a bribe. Because he tried to protect us." My throat tightened. "They burned his car like he was nothing." "He wasn't nothing," she said sharply. "What he uncovered, what he risked, none of this was small Emily. It mattered." I met her eyes, something cold and sharp rising inside me. "Then they're going to pay for it." Her expression didn't change, but I saw the slightest nod, like she'd been waiting for me to say it. "We're close," she said. "The evidence Michael compiled is enough to bring federal attention down on the ring, but we need one more thing before any of this becomes airtight." "What to Rassarnsu?" "A public exposure," she said. "Something that forces action." I frowned. "Why public?" "Because corrupt people can bury quiet accusations. They can twist stories, silence witnesses, delay investigations. But when a community sees something with their own eyes," she shook her head. "That's a different kind of power." I thought of Perrysburg, the harvest fair, the families, the booths, the faces that had always felt safe. And then I thought of one face in particular. Ellison. Friendly, dependable, neighborly Ellison. The man who waved at every passing kid and whose uniform always looked a little too pressed. His smile suddenly felt like a mask, his voice like a lie. His presence in our house, standing in the doorway, the day Evan scraped his knee, made my skin crawl. My jaw tightened. "He's the one, isn't he? The one who made this local?" "Yes," she said. "Ellison is the bridge between the private group and Perrysburg. He's been facilitating their operations, hiding their movements. Michael's notes show he was one of the first to start watching your family." The cold inside me sharpened into something hard. "So we expose Ellison," I said. "We do." Ramirez pulled out her tablet. "The harvest fair is tomorrow afternoon. Ellison's giving a speech on community policing. It's the perfect place. Everyone in town will be there. Parents, retirees, business owners, reporters for the local paper. And you want me there." She met my eyes. I want you to end what your husband started. The people Ellison manipulated, the people he fooled, they deserve to know the truth. I swallowed, thinking of Evan asleep under the crocheted blanket. And Evan, I asked. He stays here with a field agent, I trust, she said. He won't be alone for a second. I nodded, tears stinging again. Michael would have wanted me to protect our son. He did, she said. But he also wanted you to survive this. And surviving sometimes means standing up, not running. I let out a long, shaky breath. Okay, I said. Tell me what we have to do. Ramirez gave a single firm nod. We prepare the evidence. We back up Michael's files in 3 different places. We organize the timeline. And tomorrow we confront Ellison where he can't hide. I stared at the worn wooden table, the chipped white paint, the faint smell of old coffee. My grief was still there, sharp, relentless, but beneath it something else was growing. Resolve, determination, a burning need for justice. They had taken my husband. They had watched my son. And I wasn't going to sit quietly and let them disappear into the shadows. No, they wanted a fight. They were going to get one. The next afternoon came faster than I expected. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Michael in that dim room from the video, tired, scared, still trying to protect us. By the time the sun rose, something inside me had shifted. I wasn't just grieving anymore. I was moving. I was acting. I had purpose. Ramirez and I spent most of the morning preparing. She transferred Michael's files onto multiple drives, arranged backups, drafted a short statement for me not to read, but to steady me in case I froze up. She walked me through the plan until I could have recited it in my sleep. Evan stayed behind with a field agent named Thompson. Big guy, ex-Marine, gentle voice that somehow calmed my nerves. When I kissed Evan's forehead before we left, he looked up at me in that earnest way only 8-year-olds have. Mom, are you coming back? My throat tightened. Of course I am. And when I do, we'll be okay, I promise. He nodded, trusting me. That trust felt like armor. By early afternoon, Ramirez and I were driving back toward Perrysburg, the silhouette of the town fair rising ahead, bright balloons, striped tents, kids darting between booths with plastic pumpkins in their hands. A perfect fall day, too perfect considering what was about to happen. The harvest fair had been a staple since I was a kid. I could practically smell the kettle corn and barbecue from the parking lot. Retirees in windbreakers, holding hands, teenagers working the ring toss, booth families taking photos near the hay bales. It was the kind of event where everyone knew everyone else, which made it the perfect stage. Remember, Ramirez said as she parked 2 blocks away, I'll handle the technical side. You just speak. The truth is powerful in places like this. I nodded, feeling my palms go cold. Ellison's really going to be here. He's scheduled to open the main stage at 3. She checked her watch. 10 minutes. We walked toward the fairgrounds, blending into the crowd. No one looked twice at us. I saw familiar faces, neighbors, co-workers, parents from Evan's school. People who waved warmly, unaware that one of their own had been helping a criminal ring watch my family. The main stage was a simple wooden platform decorated with cornstalks and orange and white bunting. A banner stretched across the top, Perrysburg Harvest Fair, celebrating community. The irony stung. People gathered in front of the stage with folding chairs and strollers. The local bluegrass band finished a song, applause rising like a soft wave. Then the MC stepped up. All right, folks, to talk about what community means and to share some updates on public safety, please welcome our very own Deputy Mark Ellison. The crowd clapped politely. Some cheered. A few older vets gave him small nods of respect. And then he stepped onto the stage. Mark Ellison looked exactly as he always did. Neat uniform, polished badge, hair trimmed tight. Friendly smile, calm presence. The kind of man older Americans especially trusted, steady, polite, raised local. He waved like a politician in a parade. Good to see everyone out here today, he began. You know Perrysburg's a special town. We look out for each other. That was my cue. My heart hammered as I walked through the crowd toward the front. Ramirez slipped to the side of the stage carrying her small laptop bag. No one noticed her. They were all watching Ellison. I stepped right up to the stage stairs. Ellison didn't see me at first. His speech droned smoothly, something about partnership and vigilance. Then his eyes landed on me. The smile faltered, just for a second, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. I took a breath that felt like stepping off a cliff. Mark, I said loudly, why don't you tell everyone what you did to my husband? A ripple went through the audience. The band members exchanged confused looks. A couple near the front turned in their chairs. Ellison's face tightened. Emily, this isn't the time or place. If you'd like to talk. Oh, I think it's exactly the time and place, I said, stepping onto the first stair. You liked it when the whole town was watching you. You liked pretending you cared. Murmurs grew. People whispered. Some recognized me, some didn't. But all of them recognized the tremor in my voice, the kind you can't fake. Ellison raised a calming hand. Folks, let's just... Ramirez powered up the projector. A giant screen behind him flickered to life. Then the first email popped up. Subject line transfer confirmed. Below it, Ellison's name, a bank account, a timestamp. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He spun around. Stop that. You have no... The next slide appeared, a surveillance note. Child exits bus at 3:18 p.m. Mother arrives at 3:22. Routine confirmed. Someone in the audience swore under their breath. I stepped fully onto the stage. My knees felt weak, but my voice grew stronger. You watch my son, Mark, I said. You let criminals get close to my family. You helped them use us to get to Michael. Ellison reached for his belt, probably for his radio, maybe for his gun, I don't know. But 3 deputies standing near the side of the stage stepped forward, immediately blocking him. Mark, one said sharply, what the hell is this? It's lies, Ellison snapped. She's grieving. She's confused. She's being manipulated by... Play the video, I told Ramirez. She clicked. Michael's face filled the screen. Some people gasped aloud, those who knew him, those who recognized him as that quiet guy Emily married. The video played his warning, his confession, his plea for us to run. Ellison lunged toward the projector, but one of the deputies grabbed him. He struggled, face red. Let go. You don't understand what you're doing. The crowd erupted, confusion, anger, disbelief. People shouted his name, demanded answers, cursed at him. A retired teacher I'd known for years stepped forward. Mark Ellison, you looked my grandson in the eye last week. You son of a... Chaos built loud and furious, but I stood still, the storm finally cracking open around me. You killed my husband, I said quietly. The microphone picked it up anyway. The entire fair went silent. Ellison stopped fighting. He froze just for a moment, and that tiny pause was all the deputies needed. They cuffed him right there on the stage. The metal clink echoed through the still air. A woman cried. Someone shouted, traitor. Someone else said, I trusted you. Ellison's face twisted as they pulled him away. Emily, you don't know what you're doing. You're making a mistake. I shook my head. No, I said. The mistake was letting you stay hidden this long. As they dragged him off the stage, I felt a strange mix of devastation and justice curling through my chest. Nothing could bring Michael back. But the man who helped destroy our life, he wasn't walking away. Ramirez stepped beside me, her voice low. You did it. I felt the wind pick up, cool against my face. The fair around us stood stunned, people crying, hugging each other, whispering in disbelief. And in that strange, suspended moment, I felt something I hadn't felt since Michael's call. Strength. I didn't expect the fairgrounds to go quiet after Ellison was taken away, but that's exactly what happened. It was the strangest kind of stillness, like someone had pressed pause on an entire town. The music stopped. The ride stopped. Kids stopped mid-step. Even the fall breeze seemed to hush itself. People weren't celebrating. They weren't clapping. They weren't even talking loudly. They were trying to understand how a man they'd trusted, really trusted, had been living 2 lives right under their noses. An older woman who used to work at the Perrysburg Library walked up to me slowly, her hands shaking. Emily, honey, I am so sorry. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Words felt like loose change rattling in my mouth. It wasn't your fault, I finally managed. None of this was your fault. Her eyes shined, but it happened here, in our town. I nodded, yes, and that's why I had to show everyone. Ramirez stepped forward, then speaking in a level voice to the small crowd that had gathered around us. Federal investigators will be here within the hour. If anyone has concerns, information, or anything they think might be relevant, please report it. The more transparent this process is, the quicker the community can recover. Recover? That word felt so foreign I almost flinched. Recover from what? Losing Michael. Losing trust. losing the sense of safety that had always lived quietly under the surface of our days. I wasn't sure recover was the right word, but survive, yes, survive felt accurate. People began to disperse, walking in slow circles, as if the ground beneath them had changed shape. Some couples held hands tighter. Some parents gathered their kids close and left immediately. Others just stood, staring at the empty stage like the truth was still bleeding from it. Ramirez placed a hand on my arm. "We should go. I'll brief the federal team when they arrive, but you need to be with your son." At the mention of Evan, everything inside me softened and tightened all at once. My boy. My innocent, patient, trusting boy who had followed every instruction I'd given him, even when he knew something was wrong. "Yes," I said, "we need to go." The walk back to the car felt a mile long. I could feel people watching me, not judging, not pitying, just looking, seeing me differently, seeing the situation differently. Word was spreading fast. I could feel it moving through the fairgrounds like wind. When we reached the car and I sat down in the driver's seat, the emotional weight of the afternoon landed with full force. My hands trembled as I gripped the wheel. "You did well," Ramirez said quietly, buckling in. I know it didn't feel like strength, but it was. It didn't feel like anything I admitted. It felt automatic, like I wasn't even in my own body. "That's adrenaline." She offered a faint, tired smile. "It hits hard and then it leaves you hollow." Hollow was exactly the word. Like someone had carved out pieces of me and left nothing but the basic structure behind. The drive back to the farmhouse was slower than the drive out. Not because of traffic, there barely was any, but because the adrenaline was wearing off, leaving me with a foggy, exhausted ache that seeped into everything. Ramirez didn't talk much. I appreciated that. Silence wasn't scary anymore. It was a relief. When we finally pulled into the gravel driveway, I saw Thompson standing on the porch with Evan. My breath caught. Evan spotted us and burst forward, barreling down the steps like a rocket. "Mom?" I stepped out of the car just in time for him to leap into my arms. I held him tightly, burying my face in his hair, inhaling every ounce of him's sweat apple juice, something muddy he'd clearly gotten into. "Hey, buddy," I whispered, voice shaking. "I missed you." "You were gone a long time," he said, small hands fisting my shirt. "I wanted to come with you." "I know, but you were safe here." He leaned back to look at me. "Are we going home now?" Home. The word stabbed right through me. Our house wasn't a home anymore. Not with memories of Michael in every corner. Not with danger still lingering. Not with federal agents needing to comb through our life piece by piece. "No," I said softly, "not yet." Oh, he looked down, disappointed but not questioning. He'd grown 5 years older in the last 24 hours. I hated that. Thompson gave me a respectful nod. "He did great," he said. "Didn't complain once." "Thank you," I said, meaning it. Inside the farmhouse, Ramirez made another round of calls while Evan and I sat on the couch. He leaned against me, head resting on my shoulder. "Mom," he said quietly. "Yeah, when and ever arrested one. Is Dad okay?" That question had been coming, and I had dreaded it more than anything. I swallowed hard. "Sweetheart, Dad was trying very hard to protect us, and he loved you more than anything in this world." Evan didn't speak. He just curled into me, and for a second I thought he might cry. But he didn't. He just held on tighter. A crackling came from the kitchen. Ramirez stepped into the doorway, phone still in her hand. "They're transporting Ellison tonight," she said. "Straight to Toledo for federal holding. No bail." She paused. "The rest of the ring is being swept up as we speak." "Good," I said. The word felt like iron in my mouth. She nodded once. "What you did today, it matters. And it will matter for a long time." I looked down at Evan, brushing a stray piece of hair from his forehead. "Michael did the hard part," I said. "I just finished what he started." There was a long silence, a peaceful one this time. Eventually, Evan drifted into a soft, steady sleep against my side. I sat there holding him, thinking about all the parts of life that had changed in just 48 hours, things I'd never expected, never prepared for, never imagined facing. I'd lost my husband. I'd lost my sense of safety. I'd lost the future I thought we'd have. But I hadn't lost myself. And I hadn't lost the truth. As the farmhouse settled into quiet, as Ramirez wrapped up her final call, as the sun dipped behind rolling Ohio fields, I found something new growing inside me. Not hope, not yet, but strength. A different kind. A kind built from loss and grit and a fierce, unshakable need to protect what mattered: my son, my integrity, my life. And maybe that was enough. Maybe that was the beginning of something I could build on. Something Michael would have wanted for us. Something real. Before I closed my eyes for the first real rest in days, I whispered a small promise to myself and to him. We're going to be okay. I'll make sure of it. And if you're listening to this, if you've made it this far, then I want to leave you with the same thing I realized in that quiet farmhouse. After all the noise and terror and heartbreak, truth is worth telling, justice is worth fighting for, and real love can survive things you never thought you could survive. If this story touched you, share it. If it made you think, keep thinking. And if you want to hear more stories like this ones that remind us what people are capable of, for better or worse, stay with me. There's more to come.